My name is Zila Harrison, and I'm 71 years old. 3 years ago, my only son stole everything I had and left me homeless, broke, and alone. He thought I'd spend the rest of my life struggling. Thought I'd come crawling back to him, begging for help. He was wrong, very wrong. Let me tell you about the moment my son's face went pale. The moment he walked into the grand ballroom of the Riverside Hotel for the annual Business Leaders Gala and saw me, his elderly mother who he'd left penniless, standing on stage in a burnt orange gown worth more than his car, accepting an award as the wealthiest woman in town. It was a Saturday evening in November. The gala was the biggest event of the year. Business owners, politicians, media, everyone who mattered in our city was there. I stood on that stage wearing my custom-designed burnt orange silk gown with gold accents. My hair was done perfectly, my makeup flawless, my jewelry, real diamonds and gold, not the costume jewelry I used to wear, sparkled under the lights. The Master of Ceremonies was announcing my award. And the Businesswoman of the Year award goes to Zila Harrison, founder and CEO of Harrison Property Holdings. Mrs. Harrison has transformed the real estate landscape of our city over the past 3 years, acquiring and renovating over 50 properties with a total value exceeding $40 million. From humble beginnings to becoming our city's most successful female entrepreneur, Mrs. Harrison is truly an inspiration. The room erupted in applause. I walked to the podium to accept my award, a crystal trophy, beautiful, heavy, real. And that's when I saw him. My son, Spurgeon, standing near the back of the ballroom. He'd come with his business partner, probably trying to network, trying to find investors for whatever scheme he was running now. He was staring at me, his mouth hanging open, his face going from confusion to recognition to absolute shock. The color literally drained from his face. He went pale, completely pale. His wife, Parthenia, stood next to him looking equally shocked. She grabbed his arm. "Spurgeon, is that your mother? The one you said was poor and living in a tiny apartment?" I couldn't hear what he said in response, but I could see his lips moving. See him shaking his head like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. See him trying to process how his elderly mother, the woman he'd stolen from and abandoned, was now the richest woman in town. I smiled, a calm, knowing smile, the smile of a woman who'd risen from nothing and conquered everything. Then I began my acceptance speech. "Thank you so much for this incredible honor. 3 years ago, I had nothing, absolutely nothing. No money, no home, no family willing to help me. I was 71 years old and homeless. Many people would have given up, would have accepted that their life was over." I looked directly at Spurgeon. He was frozen, couldn't move, couldn't look away. But I didn't give up, because someone very important taught me a valuable lesson. They taught me that the people you think will support you, your own family, your own blood, will sometimes be the ones who hurt you most. And when that happens, you have 2 choices. You can break or you can become unbreakable. I chose to become unbreakable. I started with nothing, just my knowledge, my determination, and one small opportunity that I refused to waste. And now, 3 years later, I own 50 properties. I employ over 200 people. I've renovated entire neighborhoods. I've created affordable housing for families who need it. I've built something real, something lasting, something that no one can take from me. The applause was deafening, but I kept my eyes on Spurgeon, watched him realize that his mother, the woman he'd thrown away like garbage, had not only survived but thrived, had not only rebuilt but soared. After the speech, I descended from the stage. People swarmed me, congratulating me, asking for business cards, wanting to partner with me, wanting to be associated with my success. And through the crowd, I saw Spurgeon trying to reach me, pushing through people, his face desperate now, panicked, like he was realizing what he'd lost, what he'd thrown away. He finally reached me. Mother, is that really you?" I turned to face him, looked him directly in the eyes. "Hello, Spurgeon, it's been a long time." I can't believe. How did you? When did you? When did I become successful? About 2 years ago. When did I become wealthy? About 18 months ago. When did I become the richest woman in town? 6 months ago. You would have known all of this if you'd bothered to check on me. But you didn't, did you? You stole everything I had and never looked back." His face flushed red. People around us were listening now, pretending not to, but definitely listening. "Mother, we need to talk, privately, please. There's so much I need to explain." "There's nothing to explain. You made your choices. You stole my house, my savings, my business. You left me with nothing. And now you see that I not only survived, I won. And Spurgeon, you're not part of this. You're not part of my success. You're not part of my life. You're just a stranger who happens to share my DNA." "But I'm your son, your only child. Surely we can work this out." "Work what out? You want money. You want a piece of what I've built. You want to pretend you care about me now that I'm wealthy." He didn't answer, but his expression said everything. That's exactly what he wanted. "Get out of my sight," I said coldly. "And don't ever approach me again. You stopped being my son the day you stole from me. Now you're nothing." I walked away, left him standing there, pale, shocked, realizing what he'd lost, realizing that the elderly mother he'd thrown away was now the most powerful woman in the room, and he couldn't touch me, couldn't hurt me, couldn't take anything from me ever again. If this story has you hooked, you need to subscribe right now and hit that notification bell. We bring you the most dramatic grandmother stories every week. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from: USA, UK, Canada, Jamaica, Kenya. Let us know. Now let's get into this story. But to understand how I got here, how I went from homeless to the wealthiest woman in town, I need to take you back to the beginning. Back to 3 years ago, when my son destroyed my life and left me with nothing. 3 years ago, I was 68 years old and living comfortably. Not rich, but comfortable. I owned a small house that my late husband and I had bought 40 years earlier. It was paid off. My home, my security. I also had savings, about $150,000 that I'd accumulated over decades of working as a teacher and living frugally. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to live on comfortably for the rest of my life. And I ran a small business, a rental property business. I owned 3 small houses that I rented out. The income from those rentals supplemented my teacher's pension nicely. My life was stable, secure, peaceful. My son, Spurgeon, was 45 years old. He'd always been ambitious but never quite successful. He'd started and failed at multiple businesses, always had the next big idea, always needed money to make it happen. And I'd helped him. Over the years, I'd loaned him money, helped with down payments, co-signed loans, because he was my son, my only child, and I wanted him to succeed. But he never paid me back, never succeeded, always had an excuse for why the business failed, always had another idea that just needed a little more money. 3 years ago, he came to me with his biggest opportunity yet. "Mama, I've found it, the business that's going to make us both rich, but I need your help. I need capital to get started." "Spurgeon, I've helped you with 6 businesses that all failed. I can't keep giving you money." "This is different. This is real estate development. There's a property, a commercial building downtown, that's about to be sold. If I can buy it, renovate it, and flip it, we'll make at least $500,000 profit, maybe more." "That sounds risky." "It's not. I have investors lined up. I have a contractor ready to go. I just need to secure the property first. And for that, I need $200,000. "Spurgeon, I don't have $200,000. "But you have equity in your house, and you have your savings, and you have those rental properties. Mama, this is it. This is the opportunity that changes everything. Help me do this, and I'll pay you back triple what you invest." I should have said no, should have walked away, but he was my son, my only child. The man I'd raised and sacrificed everything for. How could I say no? "Let me think about it." Over the next week, Spurgeon worked on me, called me every day, sent me business plans, introduced me to his investors. Made it all sound so legitimate, so real, so foolproof. Finally, I agreed, but I didn't give him cash. I did something worse. I made him a co-owner of my properties, put his name on the deeds of my house and my 3 rental properties, made him a joint account holder on my savings account, Because he said that's what the bank required for the loan he was getting. Because he said it was just temporary. Because he said he'd transfer everything back to me once the deal was done. I trusted my son. I believed him. I thought he was finally going to succeed. Thought we'd both benefit from this investment. I was a fool. 2 months after I signed those papers, Spurgeon stopped returning my calls. Stopped visiting. Just disappeared from my life. I called his wife, Parthenia. "Have you seen Spurgeon? I haven't heard from him in weeks." "Oh, Zula, he didn't tell you. He's been so busy with the new business. Things are going really well. He's traveling a lot, meeting with investors." "That's good to hear, but I'd like to talk to him about when he'll transfer the properties back to my name. He said it was just temporary." "Oh, about that. Spurgeon said there were some complications, something about taxes and the business structure. He said it needs to stay in both your names for now, for legal reasons." Red flags went off in my mind. What legal reasons? "I don't know the details. You should talk to him." But I couldn't talk to him because he wouldn't answer my calls, wouldn't respond to my messages, had cut me out of his life. That's when I hired a lawyer to look into what was happening. A kind woman named Mahala who agreed to review my situation. She came back with devastating news. "Mrs. Harrison, I'm so sorry. Your son has used the properties you co-signed to him as collateral for loans. He's borrowed over $400,000 using your house and rental properties as security, and he's defaulting on those loans." "What? How is that possible? I never agreed to that." "By making him a co-owner, you gave him the legal right to use those properties as collateral, and he did. He took out massive loans, and now the banks are coming after the properties." "But I live in that house. I've lived there for 40 years. "I know, but Mrs. Harrison, there's more. Your son has also drained your joint savings account. All $150,000 is gone. He withdrew it over the past 2 months." I felt like I couldn't breathe. "He stole my savings." "Yes, and there's more. He's filed paperwork to sell the rental properties. He's trying to sell them quickly at below market value to pay off some of his debts. And legally, because he's a co-owner, he can do that without your permission." "How do I stop this? How do I get my properties back?" Mahala looked at me with sympathy. "I don't think you can. The loans are legitimate. The withdrawals were legal. It was a joint account. The property sales are within his rights as co-owner. Mrs. Harrison, I'm afraid your son has found a way to steal everything from you completely legally." "But he's my son. How could he do this?" "I don't know, but Mrs. Harrison, you need to prepare yourself. The banks are going to foreclose on your house. You're going to lose everything, and there's nothing we can do to stop it." 6 weeks later, I was evicted from my home of 40 years. The bank took it. Took the rental properties too, all of it gone. Used to pay off loans Spurgeon had taken out. Loans I'd never agreed to but was somehow responsible for because I'd been foolish enough to trust my son. My savings were gone. My home was gone. My business was gone. Everything I'd spent my life building was gone. And Spurgeon had disappeared, moved to another state with Parthenia, took the money he'd gotten from selling my properties and my savings and started over somewhere else, without a word to me, without even a goodbye. I was 68 years old, homeless and penniless. I moved into a shelter, a homeless shelter. Me, a retired teacher with a master's degree, living in a shelter at 68 because my son had stolen everything I had. The other residents of the shelter were kind, but I felt like I'd failed, like my life was over, like there was no point in even trying anymore. I stayed in that shelter for 2 months. Depression, grief, despair, I'd lost everything. And the worst part wasn't the money or the house. It was the betrayal, my own son, the child I'd raised and loved and sacrificed for. He'd looked at me and decided I was worth less than money. That stealing from his elderly mother was acceptable if it meant he could get ahead. That broke me. For 2 months I was broken. But then something happened, something that changed everything, something that gave me a reason to fight back, a reason to rebuild, a reason to prove that Spurgeon hadn't destroyed me, he'd just made me stronger. One day, a woman came to the shelter. She was looking for someone with property management experience to help her with a project. One of the shelter workers mentioned me. Zila used to own rental properties. She knows about property management. The woman, her name was Theodosia, sat down with me. Mrs. Harrison, I own a few houses that need renovation. I need someone to manage the projects, oversee contractors, make sure the work gets done right and on budget. I can pay you $20 an hour. Are you interested? $20 an hour. It wasn't much, but it was something. It was a start. Yes, I said, I'm interested. And that's how it began. That's how I started climbing back up from the bottom. One small job, one opportunity, one chance to prove I still had value. But that small job turned into something bigger, much bigger, something that would transform my life completely, something that would lead to me becoming the wealthiest woman in town. Because Theodosia's project wasn't just a few houses. It was the beginning of something that would change everything. And I was about to discover something about myself that I'd never known before. I had a gift, a talent for real estate that I'd never fully used. And now, with nothing left to lose, I was about to use it to build an empire. From homeless to the wealthiest. If you're shocked, smash that like button and subscribe immediately. Turn on notifications. And comment, where are you watching from? And could you forgive your son? Theodosia's project turned out to be more complicated than she'd explained. It wasn't just a few houses. It was 7 houses in a neglected neighborhood that she'd bought at auction. All of them needed major work. All of them were in terrible condition. I bought them cheap, Theodosia explained as we walked through the first house. But I'm starting to think I made a mistake. This is more work than I can handle. I looked around. The house was a disaster. Holes in the walls, broken windows, floors that needed replacing. But I could see something Theodosia couldn't. I could see the potential. This house has good bones, I said. The foundation is solid. The structure is sound. Everything else is just cosmetic. You could renovate this for maybe $30,000 and sell it for $120,000. Really? You think so? I know so. I've been doing this for 20 years. This neighborhood used to be beautiful. It's coming back. Young families are moving in. These houses are exactly what they're looking for: affordable homes in a safe neighborhood with good schools. Theodosia looked at me differently then, like she was seeing me for the first time. Mrs. Harrison, you really know what you're talking about. I should. I owned rental properties for 2 decades. I know what makes a property valuable, and I know what buyers want. Then I need more than just project management from you. I need your expertise, your knowledge. Mrs. Harrison, what if we made this a partnership? What if instead of paying you $20 an hour, I gave you a percentage of the profits from these houses? My heart raced. A percentage of the profits. That could be significant money, real money, enough to get me out of the shelter and back on my feet. What percentage are you offering? 20%. You manage the renovations, keep costs down, help me sell them, and you get 20% of whatever profit we make. I did quick math in my head. 7 houses. If we could profit $50,000 per house on average, that's $350,000 total profit. 20% of that would be $70,000 for me. Deal, I said. We shook hands, and that's how I became a real estate investor again. Don't miss what happens next. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications is on. Comment where you're watching from. Over the next 6 months, I worked harder than I'd ever worked in my life. I was at those houses every single day, overseeing contractors, making sure the work was done right, keeping costs under control, finding creative solutions to problems. I knew every trick in the book because I'd been doing this for years. I knew which contractors were reliable and which ones would overcharge. I knew where to buy materials wholesale. I knew which renovations added value and which ones were a waste of money. And I was good at it, really good at it. The first house sold in 4 months. We'd spent $28,000 on renovations. It sold for $125,000. Theodosia had bought it for $45,000 at auction. That meant our profit was $52,000. 20% of that was $10,400 for me. When Theodosia handed me that check, I cried. It was the most money I'd had in my hands since Spurgeon had stolen everything. It was hope. It was proof that I could rebuild. I moved out of the shelter immediately. Rented a small apartment. Nothing fancy, just one bedroom, but it was mine. It was clean. It was safe. And most importantly, it was mine. The second house sold a month later. Another $11,000 for me. The third house sold 2 weeks after that. Another $9,500. By the end of that first year, all 7 houses had sold. My total take was $73,000. It was the most money I'd had since before Spurgeon destroyed me, and I'd earned every penny of it. "Mrs. Harrison," Theodosia said after the last house closed, "I want to do this again, but bigger. I found 12 more houses at auction. Same neighborhood, same situation. Are you interested?" "Absolutely. But this time, I want to offer you a better deal. 30%, because honestly, you did most of the work. You made this happen. You deserve more." 30%, I could barely believe it. "Thank you, Theodosia, you won't regret this." The second project went even better than the first. I'd learned from the first 7 houses, knew how to work faster, how to negotiate better deals with contractors, how to stage the houses to sell quickly. We completed all 12 houses in 8 months. My profit, $158,000. Combined with the money from the first project, I now had over $230,000. More money than I'd had even before Spurgeon stole from me. I could have stopped there, could have taken that money and retired comfortably, but something had awakened in me, a hunger, a drive, a need to prove that I was more than what Spurgeon had made me feel like. "Theodosia, I have an idea. What if we didn't just renovate and sell? What if we bought properties and held onto some of them, rented them out, built passive income?" "I'm listening." "This neighborhood is gentrifying. Values are going up. If we buy now and hold, these properties will be worth twice as much in 5 years. And in the meantime, we collect rent." Theodosia thought about it. "You're right, but that requires more capital. We'd need to buy more properties and have enough cash to cover mortgages while we renovate." "I have $230,000. You must have profits from the houses we've sold. What if we pooled our resources, became real partners, 50-50? You want to go into business with me, really partner up?" "Yes, I want to build something real, something lasting, something that no one can ever take from me." Theodosia smiled. "Then let's do it. Let's start a real estate company. Harrison Williams Property Holdings." "Wait, why's my name first?" "Because this was your idea. And because honestly, you're the one with the vision. I'm just lucky enough to work with you." We shook hands, and Harrison Property Holdings was born. Over the next year, we bought 23 properties. We renovated 15 of them and sold them for profit. The other 8 we kept as rentals. The rental income alone was $12,000 per month. Split between us, that was $6,000 per month for me, more than my teacher's pension had ever been. But we didn't stop there, because I'd discovered something about myself. I was brilliant at finding undervalued properties. I could look at a house that everyone else thought was worthless and see exactly what it could become. I could negotiate deals that other investors couldn't get. I could transform neighborhoods. Word spread. Other investors started calling me, asking for advice, wanting to partner on projects, wanting to learn from me. I was becoming known, respected, successful. And I loved it, every minute of it, because I was proving something. I was proving that being thrown away at 68 wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Meanwhile, Theodosia decided she wanted to slow down. She'd made good money but wanted to spend time with her grandchildren. Travel, enjoy life. "Zula, I want to sell you my share of the business. I want out. Not because I'm unhappy. I'm incredibly grateful for everything we've built together. But I'm 72 years old. I want to enjoy the money we've made instead of working 70-hour weeks. How much do you want for your share?" She named a number, a fair number, but a number I didn't have liquid. I can't pay you all at once, but I can pay you over time, and I can give you a percentage of future profits for the next 5 years. That works for me. Zula, this business is really yours anyway. You built it. I just came along for the ride. We signed the papers, and just like that, I became the sole owner of Harrison Property Holdings. I was 70 years old, and I owned a real estate company worth over $8 million. But I didn't stop there, because there was something driving me, something beyond just making money. I wanted to prove something, not just to myself, but to Spurgeon, to everyone who dismissed me as just another poor old woman. I wanted to be undeniable, unavoidable, impossible to ignore. So I kept building, kept buying properties, kept renovating neighborhoods, kept growing. I hired a team, property managers, contractors, real estate agents, accountants. I built a real company with real employees and real systems. And I kept buying. In 2 years, I'd acquired 50 properties, not just houses. Commercial buildings too, strip malls, office buildings, apartment complexes. My net worth crossed $20 million, then $30 million, then $40 million. I wasn't just successful. I was the most successful real estate investor in town, male or female, young or old. I was at the top. And through all of this, through 2.5 years of building an empire, I never heard from Spurgeon. Never got an apology, never got an explanation, never got anything. He'd taken everything from me and disappeared. Probably assumed I was struggling somewhere. Probably never thought about me at all. Until 6 months ago, when the local business magazine did a feature story on me. From homeless to wealthy, the inspiring story of Zula Harrison. The article went everywhere. Social media, news websites, national publications picked it up. I became famous, not just locally but nationally. The story of the grandmother who'd lost everything at 68 and rebuilt to become a multimillionaire by 70 was inspiring to people. They wanted to hear how I did it, wanted to learn from me, wanted to meet me. I started getting invited to speak at conferences, at universities, at business events. And that's how I ended up at the Business Leaders Gala, where I won Businesswoman of the Year, where I stood on stage in my burnt orange gown and saw my son's face go pale as he realized what I'd become. After that initial confrontation at the gala, I thought Spurgeon would leave me alone, thought he'd slink away in shame and never contact me again. I was wrong. The next day, he showed up at my office, my beautiful corner office on the 10th floor of the Riverside building, a building I owned. My assistant, classy, buzzed me. "Mrs. Harrison, there's a man here claiming to be your son. He doesn't have an appointment. Should I send him away?" I thought about it. Part of me wanted to never see him again, never give him the satisfaction of acknowledging his existence. But another part of me, the part that wanted him to fully understand what he'd lost, wanted to face him, wanted him to see exactly what I'd built without him. "Send him in." Spurgeon walked into my office looking around in awe, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, expensive furniture, original artwork on the walls, everything screamed success. Wealth, power. "Hello, Spurgeon." "Mama," his voice was shaky, "I need to talk to you." "You have 5 minutes." "Mama, I know what I did was wrong, I know I hurt you, but I was desperate, I had debts. I had people threatening me, I made terrible choices." "You stole from your mother, that's not a terrible choice. That's a crime, that's betrayal." "I know, and I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. But Mama, I'm your son. Surely we can move past this. Surely you can forgive me." "Why would I forgive you?" "Because I'm family, because you're my mother, because—" He paused, and I saw it, the calculation in his eyes. "Because I see you've done incredibly well, and I thought maybe we could work together. Maybe I could help you with your business. Maybe. Maybe you could get access to my money. Maybe you could steal from me again." "No, I would never." "You would, you already did. Spurgeon, do you know what you took from me 3 years ago? You didn't just take my house and my savings. You took my security, my peace, my trust in people. You made me homeless at 68 years old. Do you understand what that's like? Living in a shelter, wondering if you'll ever have anything again, wondering if your life is over. He looked down, couldn't meet my eyes. But here's the thing, Spurgeon. You didn't destroy me. You just showed me what I was capable of. You showed me I didn't need you. You showed me I could build something bigger than I ever imagined. So in a way, I should thank you. Because if you hadn't stolen everything, I never would have become this. So you forgive me. No, I don't forgive you. I'm just no longer destroyed by what you did. There's a difference. Now get out of my office, and don't come back. You're not part of my life anymore. You're not part of my business. You're nothing to me. But Mama, I said get out. He stood there for another moment, looking at me like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Like he couldn't believe his mother, his elderly mother, was dismissing him so completely. But I'd learned something these past 3 years. I'd learned that family isn't about blood. It's about loyalty, love, respect. And Spurgeon had shown me he had none of those things. So I watched him walk out of my office, watched him leave my building, and I felt nothing, no sadness, no anger, just nothing. He'd taken everything from me once, but he'd never be able to do it again. But that evening, I got a call from my lawyer, Mahala. Zula, we have a problem. Spurgeon has filed a lawsuit against you. He's claiming that you owe him money. He's saying that 3 years ago, you promised him that if his business venture failed, you'd still give him a portion of any future success you achieved. He's claiming you made a verbal contract promising him 50% of any business profits you made for the rest of your life. That's insane. I never said anything like that. I know, but Zula, he has his wife willing to testify that she heard you make this promise. He has documentation showing that you willingly gave him access to your properties and accounts. He's trying to prove that you intended to be business partners and that he's entitled to half of everything you've built. But none of that is true. I believe you, but Zula, this is going to be a battle. He's hired a very aggressive lawyer. They're going to drag this out, try to make you settle just to avoid the hassle, and there's more. What? He's filed for a restraining order against you. He's claiming you threatened him, that you told him you'd destroy him if he ever contacted you again. He's trying to make himself look like the victim. I felt rage building inside me. He'd stolen from me, abandoned me, left me homeless. And now he was trying to steal from me again, trying to take credit for my success, trying to claim he deserved half of what I'd built. What do? We fight. We gather evidence showing that you built this business entirely on your own after he abandoned you. We get testimony from everyone who helped you, Theodosia, your employees, everyone. We prove he's lying. But Mahala, what if we lose? What if a judge believes him? Could he really take half of everything I've built? It's possible. Unlikely, but possible. Especially if his lawyer can make you look vindictive. If they can convince a judge that you're just an angry mother trying to punish her son instead of honoring a legitimate business agreement. I sat in my office that night looking out at the city I'd conquered, at the empire I'd built from nothing, and I realized Spurgeon was trying to do it again, trying to steal from me again, trying to take what wasn't his. But this time I had something I didn't have before. I had power. I had resources. I had proof. And I was going to make sure that Spurgeon didn't just lose this lawsuit. I was going to make sure everyone knew exactly what kind of person he was, what he'd done, how he'd betrayed his own mother. Because I'd learned something important over the past 3 years. The truth is powerful, but only if people know it. And I was about to make sure everyone knew the truth about Spurgeon. He's suing her for half. If you're furious right now, smash that like button and subscribe now. Turn on all notifications. And comment, where are you watching from? And what would you do in this situation? The lawsuit moved forward quickly. Spurgeon's lawyer was aggressive, just like Mahala had warned. They filed motion after motion, demanded documents, demanded depositions, tried to make the whole process as painful and expensive as possible. They were hoping I'd settle, give Spurgeon some money just to make him go away. That's what people expected. That's what elderly women usually did when faced with aggressive legal battles. But I wasn't most elderly women. and I wasn't giving Spurgeon a single penny. Mahala and I prepared for war. We gathered evidence. Bank statements showing I'd built Harrison Property Holdings from scratch with money I'd earned after Spurgeon abandoned me. Testimony from Theodosia explaining how she'd found me at a homeless shelter and offered me work. Testimony from contractors, employees, business partners, everyone who'd seen me build this empire with my own 2 hands. But Spurgeon had evidence too. Documents showing I'd willingly put his name on my properties 3 years ago. Bank records showing I'd given him access to my accounts. And most damaging, his wife Parthenia was willing to testify that she'd heard me promise to share any future business success with him. "It's all lies," I told Mahala during a strategy session. "I never promised him anything except that I believed in him, that I wanted to help him succeed. That's not a business contract. That's just being a mother." "I know, but Zila, juries, if this goes to trial, can be unpredictable, especially when it's a mother versus son case. Some people will think you should share with him just because he's your child. They won't understand that he stole from you first. Then we need to make them understand. We need to show exactly what he did. Show how he left me homeless. Show what kind of person he really is." "We will, but Zila, there's something else you should know. I've been investigating Spurgeon's financial situation, and I found something interesting. He's broke." "What?" "Completely broke. The money he stole from you 3 years ago, it's all gone. He invested it in a failed real estate venture in Florida, lost everything. He's living on credit cards and loans now. He's desperate. That's why he's suing you. He needs money, badly." I thought about that. So this isn't about believing he deserves half my business. This is about him being broke and seeing me as a bank he can rob. Exactly. Then let's use that. Let's show the judge that this lawsuit isn't about justice. It's about greed. It's about a son trying to steal from his mother for the second time. The deposition started 2 weeks later. Spurgeon was deposed first. I sat in the conference room watching him through a video feed. Mahala questioned him. "Mr. Spurgeon Harrison, you claim your mother promised you 50% of any future business profits. When exactly did she make this promise?" "About 3 years ago, when she agreed to help me with my business venture." "And this promise was verbal, nothing in writing?" "Yes, but my wife heard it. She's a witness." "We'll get to that. Mr. Harrison, 3 years ago, your mother gave you access to her house, her rental properties, and her savings account. Is that correct?" "Yes." "Why did she do that?" "Because we were business partners. She was investing in my venture." "And what happened to that venture?" "It didn't work out." "It failed?" "Yes." "And what happened to your mother's properties and savings?" Spurgeon shifted uncomfortably. "The properties were sold to pay off business debts. The savings were used for business expenses." "So you took your mother's house, her rental properties, and her $150,000 in savings, and you lost all of it." "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" "Explain to me how your mother ended up homeless and penniless while you moved to Florida with money from selling her properties." "I didn't know she was homeless. She never told me." "Did you try to contact her after you left Georgia? Did you call her, visit her, check on her at all?" Silence. "Mr. Harrison, did you contact your mother even once in the 3 years after you took her money?" "No." "Why not?" I was ashamed. I felt guilty." "So you felt guilty enough to avoid your mother, but not guilty enough to give her money back. Not guilty enough to make sure she had a place to live." "I didn't have the money to give back." "But you had money to live on. You had money for rent, for food, for your lifestyle. You just didn't have money for your mother, the woman you'd stolen from." "I didn't steal. She gave me access willingly." "She gave you temporary access for a specific business purpose, and you used that access to drain her accounts and sell her properties. That's theft, Mr. Harrison. Legal theft, perhaps, but theft nonetheless." Then it was Parthenia's turn to be deposed. Spurgeon's wife. The woman who was supposed to testify that I'd made a verbal contract with Spurgeon. Mahala was brutal with her questioning. Mrs. Harrison, you claim you heard Zillah promise to share future business profits with your husband. Tell me exactly what you heard. I heard her say that if she ever had business success in the future, she'd make sure Spurgeon benefited from it. Those exact words. Parthenia hesitated. Well, not those exact words, but that was the meaning. What were the exact words? I don't remember exactly. It was 3 years ago. But you're willing to testify in court that you remember the meaning of what she said, even though you don't remember the actual words. Yes. Mrs. Harrison, where were you when this alleged promise was made? At Zillah's house. When? About 3 years ago. What month? I'm not sure. What time of day? Afternoon, I think. Who else was present? Just Zillah, Spurgeon, and me. What were you all doing? Discussing the business venture. Mahala pulled out a document. Mrs. Harrison, I have phone records showing that you were in Florida 3 years ago during the entire time that Zillah and Spurgeon were discussing the business venture. You weren't even in Georgia. So how could you have been at her house when this alleged promise was made? Parthenia's face went pale. Maybe I'm confused about the timing. Or maybe you're lying. Maybe your husband asked you to lie to help him steal more money from his mother. No, I wouldn't. You're under oath, Mrs. Harrison. If you lied in this deposition, that's perjury. That's a crime. Do you want to revise your testimony? Parthenia started crying. I don't know, maybe I'm remembering wrong. Maybe it was on the phone, maybe. Maybe you should tell the truth. Did you or did you not actually hear Zillah promise anything to Spurgeon? After a long pause, no, I didn't hear it. Spurgeon told me she promised him. I believed him. So you were willing to commit perjury based on what your husband told you, without any actual knowledge of what was said. I was just trying to help my husband. By lying under oath. The deposition ended with Parthenia in tears, and Spurgeon's case falling apart. But the next day, something unexpected happened. Spurgeon's lawyer called Mahala. We have new evidence. Evidence that's going to change everything. We're filing an emergency motion. What evidence? Audio recordings. We have audio of Zillah Harrison threatening Spurgeon, telling him she'd destroy him, telling him she'd make sure he never had anything. We have proof that this whole business empire was built on revenge, that Zillah became successful specifically to hurt her son, to prove a point. And we're going to use that to show the judge that Spurgeon deserves compensation for the emotional damage his mother has caused. My stomach dropped when Mahala told me. Audio recordings? Where did they get audio recordings? I don't know. But Zillah, if they have recordings of you saying anything threatening, this could change things. Did you ever threaten Spurgeon? No, I told him I didn't want him in my life. I told him he'd taken everything from me. But I never threatened to hurt him or destroy him or anything like that. Then these recordings are either fake or edited. We need to hear them. We need to analyze them. The emergency hearing was scheduled for 3 days later. Both sides would present their evidence to the judge. If Spurgeon's recordings were legitimate, the judge might rule that my business success was built on vindictiveness rather than legitimate business acumen. Might decide that Spurgeon deserved some compensation. But if the recordings were fake, Spurgeon would be in serious trouble. Those 3 days were the longest of my life. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, just kept wondering what recordings, where did they come from, what did I supposedly say? The day of the hearing arrived. I wore my burnt orange suit, my power suit, the one that reminded me of everything I'd accomplished, everything I'd overcome. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Lucretia, reviewed both sides' filings. Then she looked at Spurgeon's lawyer. You claim to have audio recordings of Mrs. Zillah Harrison threatening your client. Present them. Spurgeon's lawyer played the recording. It was my voice, clearly my voice, saying things I'd never said. Spurgeon, I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to build a business empire and make sure everyone knows what a failure you are. I'm going to take everything from you the way you took everything from me. I'm going to make your life miserable. The words echoed in the courtroom, and I felt sick, because that was my voice, but I'd never said those things, never. Your Honor, Mahala stood up, we'd like our audio expert to examine this recording, because my client maintains she never said those words. Objection, Spurgeon's lawyer jumped up. This is a legitimate recording. It's clearly Mrs. Harrison's voice. Yes, it's her voice, Mahala interrupted. But the question is whether those words were actually spoken by her, or whether this is a deepfake, an AI-generated forgery using samples of her voice. The judge raised an eyebrow. You're claiming this is an AI forgery? Yes, Your Honor, and I have an expert who can prove it. Mahala called her expert witness, a technology specialist named Booker who worked with audio forensics. He analyzed the recording right there in the courtroom using specialized software. Your Honor, this recording has all the hallmarks of AI voice synthesis. The breathing patterns are too regular. The pitch variations are mathematically consistent in ways human speech never is. The background noise is artificially generated. This is not a real recording. This is a fabrication created using AI voice synthesis technology. That's ridiculous, Spurgeon's lawyer protested. Why would my client need to fake recordings? Because he has no legitimate case, Mahala said. Because his mother never promised him anything. Because he's a thief trying to steal from his victim for a second time. Judge Lucretia looked furious. Mr. Harrison, did you create this fake recording? Spurgeon looked panicked. No, my lawyer, he said he found it. I didn't know it was fake. The judge turned to Spurgeon's lawyer. Counselor, where did you get this recording? Spurgeon's lawyer was sweating now. My client provided it, he said. So your client provided a fake AI-generated recording, and you presented it as evidence in my courtroom. I didn't know it was fake. You should have verified it. That's your job. Both of you, Mr. Harrison and his counsel, should be prepared to face sanctions for this. Presenting fabricated evidence is not only unethical, it's potentially criminal. She slammed her gavel. This case is dismissed, with prejudice. Mr. Harrison's lawsuit is thrown out. He is barred from filing any further suits against Mrs. Zillah Harrison regarding these matters. And I'm referring this matter to the state bar and the district attorney for investigation into possible fraud and perjury charges. Your Honor, please, Spurgeon stood up, desperate. I need that money. I'm broke. I have nothing. My mother has millions and won't help me. That's not fair. Fair, Judge Lucretia looked at him with disgust. You stole from your mother. You left her homeless. You abandoned her. And now you have the audacity to claim she owes you something. Mr. Harrison, you're lucky I can't order you to pay back what you stole, but I can make sure you never benefit from your theft. Case dismissed. Outside the courthouse, I stood with Mahala watching Spurgeon and his lawyer rush away. Spurgeon looked defeated, destroyed, like his last hope had just evaporated. We won, Mahala said. He can't sue you again. He can't claim any part of your business. You're safe. Thank you. But Zillah, there's something you should know. When I was investigating Spurgeon's finances, I found something else. Something I haven't told you yet. What? He's being evicted. He owes $30,000 in back rent. He's about to be homeless, just like he made you homeless 3 years ago. I should have felt satisfaction, should have felt like karma had finally caught up with him, but all I felt was tired of the anger, tired of the pain, tired of carrying this weight. What will he do? I asked. I don't know. He has no money, no assets, no prospects, probably end up in a shelter just like you did. I thought about that, thought about Spurgeon, my son, my only child, ending up homeless because he destroyed his own life through greed. And I made a decision that surprised even me. Mahala, I want to make Spurgeon an offer. What kind of offer? Tell him I'll pay his back rent. I'll give him $30,000, $1 time, no strings attached, but on one condition. What condition? He has to work for it. I have properties that need renovation. If he's willing to work, actually work, 40 hours a week, doing construction and repairs, I'll pay him $15 an hour. If he works for a year, he'll make enough to pay his rent and start rebuilding his life. but he has to earn it. He has to prove he's willing to work instead of steal. Ziola, are you sure? After everything he's done? I'm not doing it for him. I'm doing it for me. Because I'm tired of being angry, tired of this consuming me, and because despite everything, he's still my son. And I'd rather give him one chance to redeem himself than spend the rest of my life hatting him. What if he refuses? Then he refuses, but at least I'll know I tried. At least I'll know I gave him an opportunity to do the right thing. Mahala looked at me with something like awe. You're a better person than most people would be in your situation. No, I'm just tired of letting him have power over me. Anger gives him power. Hate gives him power. But offering grace, that takes power away from him and gives it back to me. That evening, Mahala called Spurgeon and made the offer. There was a long silence on the phone. Then Spurgeon asked to meet with me, alone, to talk. I agreed. We met at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory. Spurgeon looked terrible, older than his years, defeated, broken. Mama, I don't understand. After everything I did, why would you help me? I'm not helping you. I'm offering you a chance to help yourself. There's a difference. But I stole from you. I left you homeless. I tried to sue you. I lied about you. Why aren't you happy to see me fail? Because watching you fail doesn't make me feel better. It doesn't undo what you did. It doesn't give me back those months I spent in a shelter. All it does is add more pain to the world. And I'm tired of pain. I'm tired of anger. I'm tired of this defining me. So you forgive me? No, I don't forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I'm willing to give you a chance to earn your way back, to prove you can be better than the man who stole from his mother, to show that you're capable of doing the right thing. That's not forgiveness. That's opportunity. What if I fail? What if I can't do it? Then you fail, and you face the consequences of your choices. But at least you'll have tried. At least you'll have had a chance. And Spurgeon, this is the only chance you get. If you accept this offer and then steal from me again, or lie to me again, or betray me again, we're done. Forever. No more chances, no more opportunities, nothing. He was quiet for a long time. Then, I'll do it. I'll work for you. I'll earn the money. And Mama, I'll try to be the son you deserved all along. I know I can't undo what I did, but maybe I can become someone better than who I've been. Maybe, I said. We'll see. But as I left that coffee shop, I realized something was wrong. Something about the way Spurgeon had agreed so quickly. Something about the look in his eyes. And when I got home, I found out what it was. My assistant Classy called me. Mrs. Harrison, something's wrong. Someone accessed your company's bank accounts this evening. They tried to transfer $500,000 to an offshore account. Our bank caught it and froze the transaction. But Mrs. Harrison, the access came from inside the company, someone with login credentials. My blood ran cold. Who? We're investigating now. But Mrs. Harrison, whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. They knew our security protocols. They knew which accounts had the most liquid funds. This was someone with inside knowledge. And that's when I knew. The coffee shop meeting had been a distraction. While I was there, talking to Spurgeon about redemption and second chances, someone had been hacking into my company's accounts. Someone Spurgeon had brought into my business. Someone he'd planted. Someone who was trying to help him steal from me one more time. My son hadn't changed at all. He'd just gotten better at lying. He tried to hack her accounts while pretending to want redemption. If you're furious and desperate to see how this ends, smash that like button and subscribe now. Turn on all notifications. Comment, where are you watching from? And has anyone ever betrayed you this badly? I called my head of IT security, Lafayette, immediately. Tell me everything. Who accessed those accounts? How did they get in? Mrs. Harrison, the login credentials belonged to someone in accounting, but it wasn't them who used it. Someone stole their password. We're tracking the IP address now. Give me 20 minutes. Those 20 minutes felt like hours. I paced my living room, my mind racing. Spurgeon had met with me as a distraction. While I was at that coffee shop talking about redemption and second chances, someone was trying to steal $500,000 from my company. My phone rang. Lafayette. Mrs. Harrison, I found it. The access came from a coffee shop. The same coffee shop where you met your son. The hacker was there. In the same building, using the free Wi-Fi. Can you identify them? The coffee shop has security cameras. I'm getting the footage now, but Mrs. Harrison, there's more. This wasn't just one attempt. Over the past 3 days, since the lawsuit was dismissed, someone has been systematically probing our security systems, testing for weaknesses. This was planned, coordinated. Send me everything you find. I'm calling the police. But before I could call, my phone rang again. It was Mahala, my lawyer. Zula, we have a problem. A big problem. Spurgeon filed for bankruptcy this afternoon. He's claiming he has no assets and massive debts. And in his bankruptcy filing, he's listed you as one of his creditors. What? How am I his creditor? He's claiming that 3 years ago, you invested $150,000 in his business venture. That the money came from your savings account which you jointly shared with him. And he's claiming that since the business failed, he owes you that money, which he can't pay. So it'll be discharged in bankruptcy. But that's my money he stole. That's not a debt he owes me. That's theft. I know. But Zula, in the bankruptcy filing, he's positioned it as a failed business investment. And here's the kicker. By filing for bankruptcy and listing you as a creditor, he's created a public record suggesting that you were a business partner, that you invested in his venture voluntarily. That strengthens his claim that you two had a business relationship. So even though the lawsuit was dismissed, he's still trying to establish that we were business partners, so he can come after me again later. Exactly. And Zula, there's more. In his bankruptcy documents, he's claimed that your business, Harrison Property Holdings, was partially funded with money that rightfully belonged to the failed partnership between you two. He's trying to establish a paper trail suggesting he has a claim to your assets. I felt sick. So the coffee shop meeting, the hacking attempt, the bankruptcy filing, it's all coordinated. He's attacking from multiple angles. Yes, and Zula, I think he has help. Someone with legal knowledge. Someone who understands how to manipulate the system. This is too sophisticated for Spurgeon to have planned alone. Lafayette sent me the security footage from the coffee shop. I watched it carefully. There was Spurgeon sitting across from me, and there, in the corner of the coffee shop, was someone else. A man in his 30s with a laptop, working intensely, never looking up. I zoomed in on his face, and my blood ran cold. I recognized him. His name was Dempsey Price. He was Tillman Price's son, the lawyer who'd represented Spurgeon in the lawsuit. And he was a known hacker, had been arrested twice for computer fraud but never convicted due to lack of evidence. Spurgeon hadn't just hired a lawyer. He'd hired a lawyer whose son was a hacker. And together, they'd been planning this 3-pronged attack: lawsuit to claim I owed him money, hacking to steal money, and bankruptcy to establish a legal paper trail suggesting we were business partners. This ends now, I said to Mahala. I'm not playing defense anymore. It's time to go on offense. What do you have in mind? Everything. I'm going to use every resource I have, every connection, every bit of power I've built, and I'm going to make sure Spurgeon can never come after me again. First, I called the FBI, reported the hacking attempt, provided all the evidence Lafayette had gathered, the security footage showing Dempsey Price at the coffee shop at the exact time the hacking occurred, the IP addresses, everything. Mrs. Harrison, this is excellent evidence, the FBI agent told me. We've been trying to build a case against Dempsey Price for years. This might be what we need to finally charge him. Good. And I want to file charges against my son as an accomplice. He set up the meeting as a distraction while his hacker tried to steal from me. We'll investigate. And Mrs. Harrison, I should tell you, if we can prove your son conspired with a known hacker to commit fraud, he's looking at serious federal charges. 5 to 10 years in prison. Good. Next, I called a press conference, used my connections with local media, got every news outlet in town to attend. I stood at a podium in my burnt orange suit and told the truth, all of it, about how Spurgeon had stolen from me 3 years ago, left me homeless, how I'd rebuilt from nothing, how I'd become successful despite what he'd done, and how now he was trying to steal from me again. "I'm speaking publicly today because I want everyone to know the truth," I said to the cameras. 3 years ago, my son Spurgeon Harrison stole my house, my rental properties, and my life savings. He left me homeless at 68 years old. I survived, I rebuilt, and I became successful. And now my son is trying to steal from me again. He filed a fraudulent lawsuit. He tried to hack my company's bank accounts. And he filed a false bankruptcy claim suggesting we were business partners. I'm here today to say, enough. I will not be victimized again. I will not let my son steal from me again. And I want other elderly people to know, if someone is financially abusing you, even if it's your own child, speak up. Fight back. Don't be ashamed. The shame belongs to the people who prey on the vulnerable, not to the victims. The story went viral. Within hours, it was everywhere. National news, social media. People were outraged that a son would treat his mother this way, outraged that he'd tried to steal from her twice. My phone was flooded with calls, support from around the country, other elderly victims sharing their stories, people wanting to help. And most importantly, business leaders and politicians in town expressing their support, making it clear that they stood with me, that Spurgeon would never be able to do business in this town again, that he'd burned every bridge by attacking me publicly. But the most important call came from someone I didn't expect, Parthenia, Spurgeon's wife. "Mrs. Harrison, I need to talk to you. In person, alone, please." We met at a park, neutral territory. Parthenia looked exhausted, defeated. "I'm leaving him," she said immediately. "I'm filing for divorce. I'm done." "What happened?" "Everything you said at that press conference was true, all of it. And I've known for 3 years what he did to you. He told me he'd managed to get control of your assets, made it sound like you'd agreed, like it was a business deal. But I knew. Deep down, I knew he'd stolen from you." "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because I was a coward, because I benefited from it. We lived off that money for 2 years, used it to fund our lifestyle. I was complicit, and I hate myself for it." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because yesterday, Spurgeon told me his plan. He told me that once he got money from you, through the lawsuit or the hacking or whatever worked, he was leaving me, divorcing me, taking everything and starting over with someone else, someone younger, prettier, more useful." "I'm so sorry." "Don't be sorry for me. I deserve this. I stood by while he abused you. But Mrs. Harrison, I can help you. I have evidence. Recorded conversations where Spurgeon admits to stealing from you. Emails between him and Dempsey Price planning the hacking. Text messages between him and his lawyer planning the false bankruptcy. I kept everything. As insurance, in case he ever turned on me." "Why would you give me that evidence?" "Because he was willing to destroy his own mother for money. What kind of man does that? And because I saw your press conference. I saw you standing there. Strong and powerful and successful despite what he did to you. And I realized that's who I want to be, someone who stands up, someone who fights back, someone who tells the truth even when it's hard." She handed me a USB drive. "Everything is on here. Recordings, emails, text messages, bank records showing where the money went, all of it. Use it to protect yourself. And Mrs. Harrison, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for being part of what he did to you." With Parthenia's evidence, the FBI built an airtight case. Within 2 weeks, both Spurgeon and Dempsey Price were arrested. Federal charges: conspiracy to commit wire fraud, attempted theft, identity theft for using stolen login credentials. Spurgeon's lawyer, Tillman Price, was disbarred for his role in presenting fabricated evidence and helping plan the fraud. And the bankruptcy filing was withdrawn after the FBI presented evidence that it was part of a fraudulent scheme. Spurgeon pleaded guilty. His lawyer advised him it was his only chance to avoid a decade in prison. With the plea deal, he got 5 years in federal prison and was ordered to pay restitution. But here's the thing, he had no money to pay restitution, no assets, nothing, so the restitution order was essentially meaningless. Except for one thing. It meant that for the rest of his life, even after he got out of prison, If Spurgeon ever made any money, a portion of it would be garnished to pay me back. He would never be able to fully rebuild, never be able to escape the consequences of what he'd done. 6 months after Spurgeon went to prison, I stood in my office looking out at the city. My city, the place I'd conquered. Harrison Property Holdings now owned 75 properties worth over $55 million. I employed over 300 people. I'd become the wealthiest woman in town, not just the wealthiest female real estate investor. The wealthiest woman, period. And I'd done it all in just 3 years, from homeless to this, from having nothing to having everything. My assistant, Classy, knocked on my door. "Mrs. Harrison, there's someone here to see you. She says it's important." "Who?" "She says her name is Phoebe. She's elderly. Looks like she's been crying. She says her son just stole all her money and she needs help." My heart broke. Another mother, another son, another story of betrayal and theft. "Send her in." Phoebe was 73 years old. Her story was almost identical to mine. Son convinced her to put his name on her accounts, promised to help her manage her money, then drained everything and disappeared. "Mrs. Harrison, I saw your press conference. I saw your story, and I thought, if you could survive what your son did, maybe I can too. I don't have anywhere else to turn. I don't know what to do. I'm about to be evicted. I have nothing." I looked at this elderly woman sitting across from me, saw myself 3 years ago, broken, desperate, convinced her life was over. And I made a decision. "Phoebe, I'm going to help you, not just with money. I'm going to help you rebuild, the same way someone helped me. I can't pay you back. I'm not asking you to pay me back. I'm asking you to work with me. I need someone to help manage some properties I'm acquiring, someone with life experience, someone who understands what tenants need, someone who's been through hard times and knows what it means to rebuild. Are you interested?" You'd hire me at 73. I was 68 when I started rebuilding my life. Age is just a number. What matters is whether you're willing to work, whether you're willing to fight, whether you're willing to prove that being victimized doesn't define you. She started crying. Yes, I'll work, I'll do anything, thank you so much." And that's when I realized this was my real legacy. Not the money, not the properties, not being the wealthiest woman in town. My real legacy was showing other elderly people, other victims of financial abuse, that they could survive, that they could rebuild, that their lives weren't over just because someone had stolen from them. Over the next year, I hired 15 more elderly people who'd been victimized by family members, gave them jobs, gave them purpose, gave them hope. And I started a nonprofit, the Harrison Foundation for Elder Financial Protection. We provided legal help for elderly victims of financial abuse, education on protecting assets, job training for seniors who'd lost everything. Because I'd learned something important. Being wealthy wasn't about having money. It was about having power, the power to help people, the power to change lives, the power to make sure others didn't suffer the way I'd suffered. Today, I'm 74 years old. I own a real estate empire worth over $60 million. I employ over 400 people, many of them seniors who were told they were too old to work, too old to contribute, too old to matter. And I use my wealth to help other elderly victims of financial abuse, to give them hope, to show them they can rebuild. My son is in prison, will be for another 4 years. I haven't visited him, haven't written to him, haven't spoken to him since his arrest. People ask me if I'll ever forgive him, if I'll ever reconcile with him. My answer is always the same. I don't know, maybe someday. But forgiveness isn't something you give because someone asks for it. It's something you give when you're ready, when you've healed, when you've processed the pain and moved forward. And I'm not there yet. Maybe I never will be. But what I do know is this. Spurgeon thought he could leave me penniless and broken, thought he could steal my security and my future, thought he could take everything and I'd just disappear. He was wrong, very wrong. Because I didn't disappear, I didn't break, I didn't give up. I became unstoppable. I became the wealthiest woman in town, Not despite what he did to me, but because of it. Because being left with nothing taught me what I was truly capable of. Being homeless taught me how to survive. Being victimized taught me how to fight. And now, when Spurgeon gets out of prison in 4 years, he'll come back to a town where everyone knows what he did. Where his mother is the most powerful, most respected, most successful person in the city. Where he has no prospects, no reputation, no future. He'll come back to a town where I've already won. Completely, utterly, undeniably. My son left me penniless. He went pale when I became the wealthiest woman in town. And he'll spend the rest of his life knowing that the mother he threw away became more successful than he ever dreamed possible. Not for revenge, not to punish him, but because I refuse to let his cruelty define my future. I am Zillah Harrison. I am 74 years old. I am the wealthiest woman in town, and I am proof that you're never too old to rebuild, never too broken to heal, never too victimized to rise. And that's the real victory. Not the money, not the properties, not the power. The real victory is knowing that I survived, I thrived, and I showed others that they could too. Wow, what an incredible journey from homeless to the wealthiest woman in town. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you believe that it's never too late to rebuild your life, we need you to take action right now. Smash that like button. Subscribe to our channel for more powerful grandmother stories every single week. Turn on all notifications so you never miss our next amazing story. Comment below and tell us, where are you watching from? USA, UK, Canada, Jamaica, South Africa, Kenya, Trinidad, Australia. We love our global family. Could you forgive a child who did this? What was the most shocking moment? Have you or someone you know experienced elder financial abuse? Share this video with anyone who's experienced financial abuse from family. Elderly people who think it's too late to start over. People dealing with betrayal from their own children. Anyone who needs to know you can rebuild at any age. Everyone who believes age is just a number. Thank you to our incredible viewers from around the world. From the USA, United Kingdom, Canada, South Africa, Kenya, Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, Zimbabwe, Australia, and everywhere else. We see you, we appreciate you, and we love you. Remember Zillah's lessons. You're never too old to rebuild. Being left with nothing can reveal your true strength. Age doesn't define your capabilities. Family betrayal can fuel your success. Elder abuse is real. Speak up and fight back. From homeless to wealthiest in 3 years, anything is possible. And the best revenge is building an empire they can never touch. Stay strong, stay blessed, and remember, when someone steals your present, build yourself a future they can't imagine.